There was only one good game.
It was bad. It was bad
football. But like it was a wildly entertaining stretch of football this weekend. By the way, this episode of Pick Six is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. 4 great games up on FanDuel right now that you can wager on for the divisional round. But 2 of them, at least actually 3 of them, almost like a full touchdown spread. Do you think we'll be in for good football this weekend, Pete?
I do. I think one of the number ones is going down.
Oh,
that's a bold prediction. I can't wait to hear that one.
That's a bold prediction for sure.
I think one of the ones is going down. I don't know. Look, I've seen this too many times in history where you sit there and say it's so obvious, and I don't think it is. I think this year has been crazy. I mean, when you think about it, look at 3 of the teams left in the postseason. They had losing records, major losing records at one point. Yeah. The Texans had a losing record. The Packers had a losing record. Bucks had a losing record. I mean, think about that. And yet the teams that were 10-1 was 10-1. The Cowboys were cruising. They're gone. I mean, it's going to be wild this weekend. It wasn't wild this past weekend. You had one big upset, or actually a couple, but the big one was the Packers. But the fact that you didn't have those will make it crazy this week.
Well, I mean, the thing is, we had 3 upsets because the Texans were dogs at home, beat the Browns.
But Cowboys that was close. Yeah, the Cowboys won. The Packers beating the Cowboys was major.
Was major, right, for sure. But then obviously the Bucks beating the Eagles. I think the difference is, well, yeah, right. But I mean, there were still like upsets. But the difference was like watching the Cowboys. It like wasn't exciting outside of Rams and Lions, but like watching the Cowboys just collapse, like melt down like that, and watching the Eagles just get destroyed. It was very. And watching CJ Stroud play well and Joe Flacco with the back-to-back pick sixes, like it wasn't thrilling, but it was entertaining the whole weekend, I think.
Yeah, I think, the Packers game was really entertaining because you had a bunch of young kids running around making plays all over the place, and you had a Cowboys team that had all the pressure in the world on it melting down. And even the Buffalo game got interesting for a while. It wasn't going to stay that way because Buffalo was that much better, and it should have been that way if they don't have the field goal block. They go up 24-0, and Pittsburgh starts looking for reservations in all those exotic locations. But so, yeah, it wasn't a great weekend. The Lions-Rams game was outstanding. The rest of them were not very good football games in terms of being close.
Breach, by the way, Eagle, at one point this year, I saw this tweet. This is basically looking at the records, but it's kind of amazing to Pete's point. The Eagles were 10-1, the Dolphins were 9-3, the Cowboys were 10-3, while the Texans were 3-4, the Bucks were 4-7, and the Packers were 3-6. I mean, just insane that the 3 teams with those losing records are still alive, and the 3 teams that got to those huge winning records. I mean, we're talking 29-7 combined for the Eagles, Dolphins, and Cowboys, and they're all headed to Bermuda.
And you don't even have to go that far back to get there. I mean, we are talking on December 1st, the Eagles were 10-1. I mean, that is last month they were 10-1. And last month, the Dolphins were 8-3, 2-game lead in the division. And you mentioned their record, but they were up on the Bills, who were 6-6 at that point. And then this is December 1st. It's not like this was November 5th and things got crazy. This was last month. So it's just nuts to see how quickly.
Well, also you can throw Jacksonville into that mix. They were at one point, they were the number 1 seed in the AFC for about 15 minutes. I mean, the league is wacky. It's crazy. It's become a survival test in a lot of ways, by the way. I mean, Miami Dolphins exhibit A. You can't play in the playoffs without your 3 top pass rushers and expect to advance. It's become a survival test.
This year in particular, survival test with all the backup quarterbacks. It's pretty fascinating, though, that one of Baker Mayfield, Brock Purdy, Jared Goff, or Jordan Love is going to start the Super Bowl. It's pretty wild.
It is amazing. And you know what?
Goff's been to one, and all 4 of those guys are good. It's just crazy.
Credit goes to every single one of those guys, by the way, because every single one of them has faced obstacles, media obstacles. Jared Goff never has got the due he deserves. Everybody's ripped on Jared Goff. He's played outstanding football for the Lions. Baker Mayfield, 4 teams. I mean, think about that. I had a big argument with Brady yesterday because Brady Quinn was saying the pick wasn't a failure for the Browns. And I said, yes, it was. It's an F.
He didn't make it to his second contract. It's an F.
Right. It's an F. You draft him over first overall, it's an F. But he's rejuvenated himself, and I saw that. Look, I saw the Bucks and the Packers in preseason and training camp, and I said to myself, I should have stayed with the Bucks. I got off it when they had the quarterback competition. Baker had that look, that feel, that chip. The players rallied around them, and you could see that one coming. Same with Jordan Love. Look, I've admitted this. You've mocked me because I sent out the tweet, but I've admitted this. When he came out, I didn't love his game. But after going there and listening to his teammates and talking to the staff and talking to him, I came away and watching him, I said, this is a different guy. Different. And I didn't know him coming out. I never talked to him coming out. And it's hard to get inside a guy, but you could tell that he believed he was going to be great. And now the way he's playing, those kids have all grown up around each other. It's fantastic to watch.
And you know what's really crazy about you saying that, Pete, especially about the Buccaneers, is that this team had a lot of confidence during the offseason. Tristan Wirfs did an interview, I think, in June or July, where he said, I don't really care that we lost Tom Brady. This team, we're playing in the NFC South. We're not in the best division. I think we go 12-5 and win the division. You don't usually hear players just come out and make predictions because they'll get thrown back in their face. Wirfs said, no, 12-5, win the division, and whatever, record doesn't matter once you win the division. Carlton Davis said the same thing. He said, we're going to wreck crap, except he used the actual cuss word, and that they're going to win the division. So you literally had two players come out on the record and said they're going to win the division with Baker Mayfield, and then they did it.
You know, it was amazing. Think about that, though. And in talking to some people in the Bucs even recently, they had a legitimate quarterback competition in July and August. There was one. And I thought when I went there, I said, this can't be real. It was real. Kyle Trask was pushing for the starting job. Baker Mayfield, the day I watched him practice in the facility at nighttime, was bad. Looked like he was pressing. And so there was a quarterback competition. He won it. He should have won it. It shouldn't even been to that point. But and that's where they are. What I saw from them in camp and in mini camp and in training camp, it was a great mix of old and young. And sometimes when you get those two things coming together, it works. Because they had so many cap hell. Brady left them in cap hell because of his contract. And now you're starting to see it. Cansey's starting to make a lot of plays. Remember, he was hurt in the beginning of camp and didn't play for the early part of the season. Yaya Diaby, pass rusher. Izian, the nickel corner. These young guys have kind of Palmer with the big play. These young guys have kind of added life and juice to a roster that needed it. And they're faster. They're playing faster. And they are a legitimate threat this week to the Lions.